Today's episode is brought to you by Paul Garcia Productions out of Normal, Illinois. Paul Garcia Productions creates stunning and effective videos and commercials for Central Illinois businesses. Visit paulgarciaproductions.com to learn more and help your business get more business. He is amazing, Paul. He runs right out of the basement of this studio, and he has made some amazing video productions for and advertisements for some local businesses. So if you want your business to get more business, check out Paul Garcia Productions today, paulgarciaproductions.com right there. Everybody check that out. But let's get back to my conversation with my good friend and an Illinois State Central Committee person, CEO of Breakthrough Ideas. Honestly, the list goes on about her achievements. Jeanne Ives, I have her, and we were talking during the break about kind of the split in the Illinois Republican Party between the North and the South. And like she said honest assessments. Let's take honest assessments of how our local party is doing. Jeanne, let's get a little bit more into that. When it comes to why just local elections in general seem to be kind of hit or miss. A lot of miss in Illinois for Republicans and conservatives in the last cycle. I know localities need to do an honest assessment, but from your opinion across the board, what is your assessment as to why we didn't necessarily fulfill what we thought we might?
Well, it's really simple. We did not connect with enough voters to win. And when you have, in McHenry County, I think they had 12% turnout. They actually did win a couple races up there, but these local elections are all about who turns out. It's not necessarily about convincing new people. I mean, you want to always do that. You want to win that conversation, but you have to work really, really hard connecting with people. And that takes a concerted effort to actually reach out in multiple ways. Text, call, email, walk. Text, call, email, walk, and do that repeatedly and count your noses. And the other thing is you have to really use your network, and you can't tell your friends and your family like, it'll be fine. No, you have to tell them they need to bring along with them 10 people. For every friend you have, I need 10 more behind you to come. And, that just is hard work. I don't think it's hard work, but I mean, a lot of people, your network is really a factor in these local elections. That's my bottom line.
I definitely see that. I definitely see that perspective. A lot of people, not necessarily, and we talked about that in the last segment, but I want to go back to even 2022. A lot of people claim that our issue, and you mentioned it a little bit, that our issue as a party, not just even locally, statewide, but nationally even too, is money and where we're putting our money, how much money we have. You even said earlier that we don't have, as an Illinois State party, we have little to no funds in comparison to the Democratic Party and even probably some interest groups. So how do we combat that? In what ways Ken Griffin left our state when his Democrat plant didn't win the GOP primary for governor. We have the U lines, which are mainly out of Wisconsin, but obviously help out with stuff in Illinois as they do a lot of business here. How do we?
They live in Illinois. Did you not know that? They live in Illinois.
I knew their business was based out of Wisconsin because I have friends that work for the U line group. So I wasn't sure if they did live in Illinois, but I knew they had significant interest in it. So how do we make sure that we don't just have people donating based off of a singular candidate, but then throw a hissy fit, and we make sure that we actually have people behind the values and the ideas and the party and not just singular candidates?
Well, I mean, here's the problem. No party should, and unfortunately the Democrats do this, but the Democrats depend on J.B. Pritzker funding everything. Let's be honest with it. He just bought 2 Supreme Court races.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, in my opinion, he got those guys $1 million each, 2 different entities, 500,000 here, 500,000 there, just stays under the caps. It's ridiculous. So, he's able to buy anything he wants in the party. And it's not dissimilar from what happened in 2014. Let's be honest. Browner was able to fund a lot of the party operations, and people started to depend on that. We cannot depend on one big donor. That's ridiculous. We have to build infrastructure, long-term infrastructure, where we are connecting with voters on a more regular basis, not just 3 months before an election, 2 months before early voting. And we can't do that anymore. We have to put in a strategy, and it has to happen literally precinct by precinct. That's why the precinct committeeman is super important. You have to be connecting with voters on the local level and making those networks happen, especially when you don't have the money. As far as donors go, you have to develop donors that look, if they're here in Illinois still, they should have a stake in what happens. I don't care if their exit plan is in 5 years or 2 years or or, well, nothing seems to happen. Sorry. I mean, if you really are living here, you should want better government, because this state's a disaster and it's getting worse. And so we have to convince people that, you know what, here's our plan. We have to we have to show them a plan. We have to make them part of it. And then we have to go and ask individual donors for a more modest amount of money to fund ongoing operations that happen at the local level, more so than at the state.